Well, folks, good day to you, one and all. Welcome to Season 7 Sports and GT Masters. Coming to you live from the second year production studio down here in Bathurst in Cape Town. And, well, beginning of another season. And probably going to be record numbers that we're going to have taken part in the series this year. Joining us, we've in fact got two commentary teams this evening. FC Nivo, good evening to you.
Good evening.
And then Frankie Hinnis.
How's it, Gaza? And I think the new season for the Sports and GT iRacing Master Series is going to be out of this world.
And then we've got a local duo that's going to be joining us this evening, directly from the Australian studios, the Central Production Studios in Australia. Bruce, good evening to you.
Yeah, g'day Gary, g'day everybody out in Australia. I know it's pretty early in the morning there by you guys, but yeah, welcome. We're going to be in for a great one, and big thanks to Gaza all the way there from Cape Town that's going to be producing the show for us tonight.
And then joining him, he's a co-commentator for many, many years, very well known in the area. In fact, the local city commentator for Mount Panorama. Nigel, good evening to you.
Crikey, Gazza, lovely to be here with you guys all the way from Mount Panorama in Bathurst, Australia. Lovely to be alongside my old mate Bruce here for this evening's Sports and GT Masters season opener at the Mount Panorama circuit here in Bathurst.
Oh, great setup that we have. Fantastic to have the opportunity to have both of these teams with us. Coming back here to Cape Town, let's have a look, see who is going to be out there on that Bathurst circuit.
Well, qualifying is just on the go. I want to say a big hello to Bruce and to Nigel. It's approaching 8 o'clock here in Cape Town. FC, so they are about, 8-9 hours ahead of us. They tomorrow morning already, basically.
They're into the early hours of the morning already. But we are about 2.5 minutes into qualifying already, and we should start seeing some times coming up on the screens here. That's Luke Lucchesi out there in the Ferrari-coloured DALLARA Formula 3 car as they make their way around the Mount Panorama circuit at the Bathurst, Australia. And what an epic race this is going to be. Race number 1 of season number 7 for Sports and GT Master Series.
Right, so we follow Graham Stephen around. We are 3 minutes into the 10-minute qualifying session, and that is Graham Stephen working his way around. Ian Riddle coming through as well. We'll have a look-see when the guys put up some of the times, exactly what they're going to do around here. That is Robbie Team. He's in a team Bolt outfit. Didn't do too bad last week at the 6 hour. Atinachel also working his way around Mount Panorama in the Benetton colored outfit there, and then Willem Pina coming through in the traditional Castrol colors, making his way down the Conrad Straight.
Hannes van der Merwe, that we thought originally was not going to be able to make the first round, he's actually made it out there tonight, as well as Renier Hubert in slightly different colors. While the Huberts are out there in force, there is Ida Hubert, others in arms that all do the iRacing. Leonardo Bakari, and he's actually moved out of South Africa. He's moved overseas, and he said once he's got his rig sorted out, he will join us, and that exactly he has done. One of the success stories in the iRacing in South Africa, Raymond Duggan.
Yeah, Raymond Duggan busy making his way around. He's heading into Murray's Corner as the times now begin to come through. And Graham Stephen has done a 1:58.104. He is the quickest man out there at Mount Panorama in Bathurst. As we watch Mike Berrier come through, and then we have got Luke Lucchesi, 1:57.504. He is the fastest man around the circuit so far.
Yeah, Luke Lucchesi putting up a really quick time there, 1:57.504. Graham Stephen out there in a 1:55.104, second fastest so far. Peter Hubert, 1:58.4. He's about almost 4/10 of a second down there from Graham Stephen. Mike Berrier, a good time out there, 1:59.015. That's enough to stay ahead of Raymond Duggan in that position, 1:59.17.
And that is Raymond Duggan we see going around, and there's Andre Steenkamp. He's done a PB of 1:59.613 as Andre Steenkamp in the 46 car, provisionally there in P6. We're back with Atinachel with a minute 59.626, and he's provisionally there in that 7th position.
Yeah, Robbie Teams sits out there on a 159.666. That's in that 8th position. Timothy Stanton, 159.7, just 1/10 of a second. Actually less than that, about 500ths of a second between the lot of them. As Herman Lazarus squeezes in between them on a 159.682 for that 9th spot. Peter van der Spy is out there in 11th position so far with Ian Riddle, JJ van der Merwe, Willem Pienaar, and Colin Plitt rounding off your top 15 so far.
We still got out there Stephen McCarthy, Johan Engelbrecht, and Eugene Manouk is there in that 18th position.
Numerous drivers that have, in fact, not yet put up a lap time, one of them being Leonardo Corey. See, he's still a long way to get around the circuit. Willem Botha, in the same and similar positions. Graham Stephen puts up his fastest time and consummates that front row so far. Renier Hubert is the man that's going to be getting himself up into the positions in the not distant future, as looks like he's just finished his first lap, so he's taking a bit of a long time. And then Sandra Macquarie also not having completed a lap yet, so 18 up on the screen already and another 4 to come. Let's cross to Nigel at Bathurst. Nigel, this is the type of times that you were expecting to see from these cars?
Well, Gaza, blimey, all I can say is these South Africans are really, really quick out here at Bathurst. The times are quite similar to our local lads that race out here on a regular basis, but for guys that don't come out here every weekend, these times are really, really quick out there, and they can be really chucked with that. Mr. Lucchesi, is it? Lucchesi, there we go, 157.447. That is a blindingly quick time out there ahead of Willem Botha in that 2nd position on a 157.881.
Well, frankly, I think we're going to have to help our guys. Luckily, they can't hear the feedback from our side when I press the button here. So, frankly, I think we're going to have to go through some of those Afrikaans-type pronunciations to help Bruce and Nigel from circuit side.
Yeah, I must say Bruce has been pretty quiet at this point in time. But yeah, Luke Lucchesi with another quickest lap out there, 157.447. Herman Lazarus is there in that 6th position. He's in a PB of a 159.161. That is Herman Lazarus working his way up the mountain straight. But yeah, nearly 8 minutes done and 2 minutes to go before we end off the qualifying stint.
So for those of you who just joined us, Sports and GP Masters Season 7, Panorama, first circuit, production, my second year productions, with Gary Bennett, Frank Burns and FC Nevote in the local studio, and then Bruce and Nigel and us from the backside out of the circuit. So as we're almost at the end then of the qualifying session, and I do believe that a lot of the guys have put in their final laps already. Willem Botha now finds himself bumped up to the front row of the game.
8 minutes and 45 seconds almost done as Willem Botha makes his way under the Jim Beam Bridge, heading towards the chase that came down the Conrad Straight, and then from there work his way into Murray's Corner, which is named after the famous late great Mr. Murray Walker, that was one of the greatest Formula 1 commentators of all time. There's 50 seconds left in the qualifying session, so I think pretty much where you see these drivers right now is where they're going to pull away for the 45-minute race session.
Well, as just a bit of information for all of you that don't know where we are today, racing around Mount Panorama here in Bathurst, and actually the name of the mountain here in local dialect is Mount Walu, and it actually means the name of the initiation of the young man. So a lot of young men coming to Mount Panorama or to Mount Walu to get initiated here in one of the fastest tracks in Australia.
Yeah, Nigel, I gotta agree with you on that one. I must say, and I'm also pretty impressed with the local South Africans making their way around this racetrack. I don't quite think we've ever had single-seaters work their way around Mount Panorama in the past, so we're going to have a look and see exactly what these guys can do. I'm also very much aware that they took on the might of the New Zealanders a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't do themselves any harm at all. They literally made the our neighbours across the Tasman Sea sweat it out there a little.
Yeah, look, we know that the guys across from the pond is quite quick. But let's have a look at our grid for the start of the race here today. Luke Lucchese out on pole position. Willem Botha on that second position. Graham Stephen lining up in the second row with Peter Hubert out in fourth position.
Right, Frankie here, just stepping in quickly. We've got Mike Vera, then we've got Renier Hubert, Herman Lazarus and Raymond Duggan, Attien Hagel and Peter van der Spey, and then row 6 is Johannes van der Merwe, JJ, and Andre Steenkamp, FC.
Row number 7 there's got Robbie Teens with Ian Riddle right there alongside him. Timothy Stanton in 15th with Colin Plitt in 16th. Willem Pienaar lines up on row number 9 there on the inside with Johan Engelbrecht rounding off your top 18.
Then Stephen McCarthy and Leonardo Bakari. We didn't get to that last row. That will be Eugene Manouk and Sandra Bakari. 22 cars out there. 45 minutes at Bathurst. We're waiting for Timothy Stanton to still take his grid slot. And then from there, it's going to be absolute car wars out on the circuit. Nige, are you looking forward to this one?
I'm always looking forward to motorsport here at Bathurst. You can bet your bottom dollar that we'll celebrate with a nice shrimp on the barbie after this one.
Well, yeah, this is Bruce here, and we're going to have to have this barbie maybe on Friday, because we're in the early hours of Thursday morning here in Australia. Lap number 1 is about to get going, as all these Formula 3 DALLARAs are lining up here on the grid on the pit straight. They'll be going into turn 1 called the Hell Corner, and then from there they'll be making their way up the mountain straight towards Quarry Bend.
Right back to the Cape Town studios. Green lights on, green lights off, down towards turn number 1.
Yeah, down towards turn number 1 they go as this whole crew heads toward Hell Corner, and it is Lucchese that takes that first position from a Willem Botha. Lucchese runs a bit wide there as he starts hurtling down. He spun it. Lucchese spun it coming through turn number 1, and that's put Willem Botha, Graham Stephen and Peter Hubert up into the lead.
Now you can just see that he's rejoining there. Luke Lucchese all the way down in that 18th position. But it's all about Willem Botha, Graham Stephen, Peter Hubert and Mike Verrier at this point in time as they work their way around. Look at that train of Formula 3 DALLARA racing cars working their way up towards the top of the mountain. That is Mike Verrier in the Gauloise Ligier colours from back in the day, and he sits there behind the 777 of Peter Hubert.
Yeah, that is the fourth place man, Mike Verrier there. He sits ahead of Renier Hubert, then Raymond Duggan is there in 6th position. Herman Lazarus is working his way up into that 7th position ahead of Attien Hagel. Then it's Van der Spey, Steenkamp and Robbie Teens all battling it out there as this quicker train of DALLARA Formula 3s make their way around the circuit. But this is your race leader. Can he keep it pointing in the right direction? Willem Botha having a blinding start of this race.
Well, it's been quite some time since we've seen Botha leading a race, and he thoroughly deserves it so far. Then it's Graham Stephen and Peter Hubert in that 2nd and 3rd position. There you see dropping off slightly, somebody making contact with the wall. That was Raymond Duggan. Duggan rubbed the wall slightly there as they raced down the Conrad Straight towards the chase.
Yeah, towards the chase they go, and Herman Lazarus sits there in that 7th position ahead of Attien Hagel, Van der Spey, Steenkamp, and there Robbie Teens in car number 20. He's just ahead there of JJ van der Merwe, as there's a position swap between Steenkamp and Van der Spey. Van der Spey losing a position there, but riding on board here with 2nd place man Graham Stephen. He's on the chase there of Willem Botha, but Botha having a very nice gap in that lead.
Right, making their way towards the end of the lap, coming out of Murray's Corner, down the pit straight into turn number 1 called the Hell Corner. We'll get the intervals up for you now to see exactly how close these drivers are towards each other. But Graham Stephen has got that Peter Hubert right in there behind him. There's 0.2 of a second behind Stephen and Hubert, and Stephen is 0.8 of a second behind race leader Willem Botha.
A lot of guys have jumped towards the pits, so that includes Lucchese, Pienaar, as we see a back out here for 2nd and 3rd. Very wide goes Peter Hubert in that Jordan car. A lot of damage there to that 777 car. That was never going to work, putting those open wheelers out on the loose side, going on the outside of a corner.
Yeah, that was never going to work. Oh, there's massive contact, and I think that's Timothy Stanton that got sent back in there. Or to get confirmation.
No, that's Peter van der Spey.
Is that Van der Spey?
Yeah.
Well, Peter van der Spey, yeah, he jumped back to the pits, quite right, and he's Peter van der Spey. Attien Hagel in that 7th position, but they're all fighting for Renier Hubert 2nd position, because Duggan, Lazarus, Nagel, Steenkamp, Teens, Van der Merwe and Riddle are all in there behind the man in P4, Renier Hubert.
Yeah, Renier Hubert is going to have his hands full there as Mike Verrier sits in a very comfortable, not a comfortable 3rd position, as he's only 0.6 of a second ahead of Renier Hubert. So that battle can still go up all the way into 3rd position. Renier Hubert sitting there in the Fruit Loops car in that 4th position with Duggan just 0.8 of a second behind him. Lazarus a second behind them with Ati Nagel 0.3, under 0.3 of a second on the tail end there of Raymond Duggan.
Well, one driver out already, and that is Timothy Stanton. That's in 22nd position. So he has burnt that one big time. Bernardo Baccar is setting up there in that 14th position, 2.5 seconds behind Colin Plitt. Herman Lazarus is going a one-on-one here with Ati Nagel. They're having their own little war there, as he's on the case of Ati Nagel, and right behind him is Andre Steenkamp. Right on his case is Robbie Teens, Johannes van der Merwe and Ian Riddle. That's a train of cars you see there going down the main straight into turn 1 called the Hell Corner.
Will there be contact? Oh, they leave each other alone just enough to get through there unscathed. Oh, somebody going very slowly there ahead of one of the cars there, costing him a couple of positions. But Lazarus is sitting there right on the tail end of Ati Nagel. He's there. A 1/10 of a second. He's right there. There's a move. Herman Lazarus up on the inside of Ati Nagel.
Yeah, Nagel losing a position there as he goes through, and we ride aboard Andre Steenkamp. Look at that train of cars. They're all behind Herman Lazarus, Nagel, Teen, Steenkamp, Van der Merwe and Riddle. And there's nothing. Oh, there's a massive accident there. It is a big one, and they're just piling into each other there, coming into that left-hander.
Yeah, that was a big one there, Gaza.
Well, let's have a look at some of those incidents that have happened so far. That was the initial accident that there was with Luke Lucchese. That dropped him right into the back end of the pack. Renier Hubert going into the 2nd corner. That was the one where we saw him hammer very hard into the wall. Then correctly spotted there by Frankie was the Peter van der Spey accident. Let's have a look at that one, and that's where they touched wheels and the car just flicked up into the air. And well, from there on out, there was just no ways he was just going flying through the air, and whatever he was going to hit the ground, that is the way it was. Andre Steenkamp, a little bit earlier on, with the passing maneuvers, trying to work his way through the pack, and once again, just changing of lines as they go through that. That took Robbie Teens out of it. Let's just have a look at that one from a slightly different angle. Let's see, there's Robbie Teens, and he goes up on the inside. Steenkamp comes across, and that takes him out of it. JJ van der Merwe was then involved in that one as well, going one car further back, and unfortunately that cost him pretty dearly. Once it happened in front of him, nowhere to go, and that was the end result of that. Going back to what's happening live at the front end of the field.
Actually, JJ van der Merwe, having looked at that footage, JJ van der Merwe was not collected in that one. He actually made contact with the Red Bull sponsored car behind that incident, so that's where that came from. But yeah, as you said, Gaza, right back to the front of this race, Willem Botha has not put a foot wrong yet in that beautiful number 23 DALLARA Formula 3 car of his. He's starting to pull away. He's got a 2.6 second lead there on Graham Stephen, who in turn is 4.7 seconds ahead of 3rd place, Mike Verrier.
Yeah, but Mike Verrier has got that Renier Hubert all over his back bumper. As, or should I say, under that back wing of that DALLARA is a 1/10 of a second between Mike Verrier and Renier Hubert, and Raymond Duggan just under a second in there behind Verrier and Hubert in that 5th position.
Beautiful shot that you can see how that back suspension works on these DALLARA Formula 3s, looking back towards Renier Hubert, who is just half a second the likes of Verrier. Verrier having a very good race out there in that 3rd position, with Hubert in 4th and Raymond Duggan closing up on them. Let's just have a look here at this replay again. Eugene Manook was involved with something. Let's have a look here in the Alfa Romeo. Just ran it a bit wide and clipped it into the wall there when everybody else got collected as well.
Was that chaos that just happened out there ahead of him. A replay here at Timothy Stanton in the 69 car. And just, is he going to rub it up against the wall? Yes, he does. Right there against the wall in a cloud of smoke. He rubs that car up against the retaining wall. Colin Plitt out there in the 75 in the Lotus colored outfit. DALLARA F3 just gets a tail end, stepping out on him and planting the nose of that DALLARA into the safety wall.
Well, that is the lead that you can see that Willem Botha has there. 3.2 seconds on your second place man, Graham Stephen. There is Willem Botha, who in turn is 6 seconds ahead of Mike Verrier now. And Rainier Hubert still hounding the back of them. There's going to be a move there between Hubert and Verrier. We're not seeing that, but the timing is, there's nothing between them. Rainier Hubert makes a pass there.
Let's just have a look at that passing maneuver. Rainier Hubert passing Mike Verrier. That's the one that we just spoke about now. That long straight. Well, there's two long straights. One going up towards the mountain, and the other one going back from the mountain. Let's go across to our circuit commentators, Bruce and Nigel.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys. These South African drivers are racing as hard as they can. That's just Mike Verrier in the Galwas coloured outfit. That's the colour that the Ligier Formula 1 car was sprayed a couple of years ago when Alain Prost was part of that team before it became the Prost. And I must say, these South African drivers not afraid to take on Mount Panorama. They're going pretty hectic there, but you want to have a night. You had a look, and there was one car right up against the wall there.
Yeah, there was Gene, the barrier there. But let's have a look here. Oh, Mike Verrier, crikey, that's a replay of what happened there to Mike Verrier.
Well, from my side, I'm going to just jump in every now and then. I'm going to hand over back to Frankie back down in Cape Town, because he gets these names better than what and right the way we do. So Frankie, over to you. Yes, Bruce, thank you very much. But Gaza, I'll tell you something. The boys are driving as hard as they can. Big thanks to Bruce there in Australia.
Always nice to have that local knowledge of what's happening out there on circuit. But talking about knowledge, Herman Lazarus trying to work out a pattern to get here past the very much up and coming Raymond Duggan.
Has been on fire this whole event. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He's gaining positions and he's laying in fourth position ahead there of Raymond Duggan. He just made a beautiful move there on Raymond Duggan, and he's actually pulling away. Herman Lazarus is enjoying this car around the circuit.
Well, he is indeed. He's pulling away there. Duggan's still in there behind him, followed by Atinachel, as we see Mike Verrier there in pit lane.
In pit lane after that big crash with the retaining wall heading up toward the mountain. But you are riding on board with Atinachel. Beautiful shot on that front right wheel as he's chasing down Raymond Duggan, who just got overtook there by Herman Lazarus. And we might see another overtake here, as a lot of drivers are really liking these Formula 3s around this circuit, as Atinachel is getting closer and closer to the back end there of Raymond Duggan.
Coming out that Falcon corner, that's the corner just before you get the Conrad Straight. That is the very, very last corner, also called the Forest Elbow. And then you go all the way down the Conrad Straight, as Mike Verrier has made his way back out the pit. You see him going up the mountain straight. But here, Atinachel, and Atinachel is right on the back end there of Raymond Duggan, and they're all over the back of Herman Lazarus. As a matter of fact, under the Armour All Bridge they go, heading towards Murray's Corner. There's the pit entrance on the left-hand side. Atinachel, right ahead of him, you see Raymond Duggan, and right ahead of Raymond Duggan in P4, you see Herman Lazarus as they work their way into turn 1, the Helm.
Well, Frank, I'll tell you this for nothing. Herman Lazarus is being helped tremendously here by Atinachel, because Raymond Duggan cannot even begin to focus on attacking the back end of Lazarus, as he's got his hands full with that Atinachel car, who's tucked in right underneath that diffuser. He's gaining, he dives to the inside. He's going to make a move up on the inside. Who's going to be the latest on the brakes? Closing the door there is Raymond Duggan, but he runs wide, and through comes Atinachel.
Yeah, and Willem Botha has been lapped. Willem Botha is in big trouble. He was in trouble earlier on. Willem Botha is going to go all the way down. He's going very slow. and he's going to go a lap down to the leaders. So FC, we didn't quite pick up what happened there, but Willem Botha is going one lap adrift.
No, he's not. He's in 4th position. He is in that battle. He was the race leader.
Oh,
he
okay,
hit the
yes.
wall. That's damage.
So
There's
that
no
was the
front
car
wing.
we saw up against the wall, okay?
Yeah, there's no front wing on that car. He picked up some damage not too long ago because the rest of the pack only catching up to him now. But Willem Botha is losing positions as the rest of the guys battled it out there. Let's have a look here. All on his own coming up. No, that's Eugene Manouk that planted that car, the 52 car, right up against the wall as Mike Verrier. Oh, Mike Verrier reversed out of it and collected Eugene Manouk. Luckily, Peter Hubert in the 777 didn't get collected by that one either. But I would like to see what happened there to our race leader, Willem Botha, who's now dropped all the way down to 6th.
Yeah, I mean, he was so slow, and I saw that the nose cone was gone, the wing, I should say. And I thought that he had gone one lap down, but no, he's still in the fight. He's still in that 6th position, but he's going to have to make his way to the pit. This is a replay, and that is coming out of turn number 1, and he just slammed it into the wall on the left-hand side of the circuit. There you see pit exit on his left-hand side.
Coming through turn number 1, you're at pit exit. Now you've got to do this entire 6-kilometer lap to try and get back to the pit entrance again. So, he's going to be kicking himself. Just got onto the gas a little bit too early. Got that back wheels onto the curb, and that's what spun him around.
Yeah, and then just behind him in that replay, you see all that front runners come through there behind him as Willem Botha in the pits. Look at that mashed up Mike Verrier car that's there in the pits, that the Ligier outfit, DALLARA. But Graham Stevens sits out there in P1. He's 4.2 seconds ahead of Renier Hubert in that 2nd position. There's massive gaps between all of them. 4.9, nearly 5 seconds behind him in that 3rd position is Herman Lazarus. And then we've got Raymond Duggan 1.5 seconds in there behind Lazarus as we ride aboard with the man in 2nd position, Renier Hubert, 4.2 seconds behind leader Graham Stevens.
Yeah, he's heading towards the forest in the Fruit Loops DALLARA Formula 3 car. Going to go around that forest elbow now and onto the Conrad Straight. There he goes. Going to come down out of that Falcon corner, and that's where he climbs onto the Conrad Straight, heading towards the chase.
Right, Stevens sitting out there in P1, Hubert in 2nd, Lazarus is there in that 3rd position. He's been hassled there by Raymond Duggan, 0.8 of a second between Lazarus and Duggan for P3 and 4. Then nearly 2 seconds behind him is Ati Nagel. Then 4.3 seconds behind him is Ian Riddle, and he's got Stephen McCarthy right in there behind him. There's under a second there between Riddle and McCarthy for P6 and 7.
Yeah, battle it out there for P6 and 7. Stephen McCarthy out there in the McLaren colours. He's out there. Then in that 8th position, Sandro Bakari making his way around in what looks to be Williams colours. But let's have a look here. Willem Botha and 10th place Leonardo Bakari backing it out there as Botha makes his way through in the number 23. And Leonardo Bakari finds himself in that 10th position.
Yeah, Botha just made the move there on Bakari. Willem going up to P9, Bakari dropping down there to P10. And that is Willem Botha. He was the early race leader with the 16 minutes done in this one. And now he finds himself there in that 9th position. A replay here at the Sandro Bakari. The 72, that's the Canon Williams Renault outfit on that car of Bakari, and just doing a little bit of a swapper there going into that left-hander.
I've seen quite a few cars lose it going into that corner, just being a bit too over-eager on the throttle or a bit too used on the brakes going into that corner, and that's why you see a lot of those incidents happening. Raymond Duggan out there in the Renault-coloured Formula 3. He sits there in that 4th position with Ati Nagel 1.7 seconds behind him.
But the rider boarded in Rad Racing, Raymond Duggan, car 71, sitting out there in P4. That's what it looks like from a single-seater cockpit as he makes his way through the top part of Mount Panorama into Forest Elbow. He goes. Now he'll climb on the loud pedal. Will Raymond Duggan, as he works his way down the Conrad Straight under the Jim Bean Bridge, he sits out there in P4. Racing down is Duggan, and he's got Lazarus right there with him. The two of them are side by side, heading down the Conrad Straight towards the chase and then into Murray's Corner.
Oh, there was almost contact between the two of them, but they both climbed out, taking that position ahead. There is Raymond Duggan, moves up on Herman Lazarus and showing that he's got a bit more straight line speed than Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes this past weekend at Suzuka.
There is Nagel, that is in that fifth position is Ati Nagel. Now Ati Nagel is saying, well, Duggan, if you can get your nose ahead of Lazarus, I can do the same. He's just over a second behind him. Lazarus is Ati Nagel as they work their way up the mountain straight and start climbing their way towards the top of the mountain.
Heading up the mountain straight underneath the Pedders bridge there, as they make their way towards the quarry bend. Into that right-hander they go now. It is Duggan and Lazarus. Here comes Nagel. Nagel picking up that there is a bit of squabble between Lazarus and Duggan, and he's going to be waiting there ready to pounce as they make their way through the cutting towards Raid Park and towards Solomon Park. Is this battle going to unfold, or is anybody going to make a mistake and end up in the wall?
Well, Ati Nagel there in the colours of Benetton when Michael Schumacher raced for Benetton back there in the early 90s. Oh, there's a big one! And they've taken each other out. Duggan has taken himself out. Herman Lazarus is involved in that one. Oh, my goodness, Ati Nagel. All three of them were involved in that situation.
Oh, that was a big one there. And, ooh, somebody else without a back wheel. There we go. We see Ati Nagel with damage. Herman Lazarus got damage. We see that Duggan's got damage. And Eugene Manouk looked like he was... Eugene Manouk actually started that. Looks like he has connectivity issues and just came across the circuit, and the other guys have tripped over themselves with that one.
Yeah, quite right there. And I feel sorry for Eugene Manouk. That wasn't his fault. If he does have connectivity issues, he literally took out a massive fight. You saw his car flashing. So that is probably exactly what happened to him. Now, that pink car that we saw in trouble, that is Johan Engelbrecht. And that's a replay of Johan Engelbrecht who has to have a pink car this evening because of 80 X's in the last 6 hours.
And now you see what happens. You get one quick repair where you can jump to pits. The rest of the time you've got to work your way to the circuit with a very badly damaged car.
Well, with all this happening, FC, that is that situation unfolding once again. That's a replay of it. And those three cars that were involved in a heck of a fight, well, they were reduced to very second-handed Formula 3 DALLARA cars. And they all had to go to get those damaged motor cars repaired. So, FC, when last we heard from Nigel there in Australia, he's at the track, as a matter of fact.
That's right, Frankie, coming to you right here from the circuit down here in Bathurst. And let me tell you, I actually had a walk down to the pit area just now, and some of the temperatures running quite high between some of the guys. Not too happy with some of the incidents happening out there, but this is motorsport. These things will happen. Just look at all those damaged cars out there in pit lane. You see Stephen McCarthy out there in the number 18 car. You see Willem Pinar out in the Castrol racing car. That is a car number, his 19th position, car number 57. Luke Lucchese's managed to recover up into 12th position. He's alongside the likes there of Andre Steenkamp as they make their way around the circuit. No, that's Peter van der Spy. Peter van der Spy up there in that 13th position. That was for position, actually.
Well, a big thanks there to Nigel. And yes, remember that Luke Lucchese got it all wrong. Turn one, lap one. And he had to escape to the pits to get that lot sorted out. He'll be very happy that these guys, happy for himself, not for them though, that they had problems out there, and that he could systematically slice his way through the field, and he currently sits there in that 12th position. But back to the man that is there in P1. That is Graham Stephen. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of Renier Gubert. That's in that second place. And Renier is 22.7 seconds ahead of Ian Riddle. That is there in that third position. It is a massive lead that Stephen and Gubert has got there on Ian Riddle. He's done a 202.877. That was Ian's last lap. Then we got Sandro Bakari in that fourth place, and he's over 9 seconds Sandro behind Ian Riddle. Willem Botha all the way back into P5 and the quickest man out there with the 157.645.
Frankie, I said this at the beginning of the race. Willem Botha loves this car. You can see he's happy in there and that he likes riding around the circuit. And barring that one little mistake that he made, getting onto the gas too quickly after Hell Corner, he actually got right back, bang on it, and he's putting in the lap times to try and catch up back to the front of this race, as he is already 20 seconds ahead of Leonardo Baccari after just battling for that position a mere couple of laps back.
Yeah, but only 1.3 seconds behind Leonardo is Herman Lazarus. Remember, he was involved in that pile-up early on, and he's making a comeback. He's now just over a second. Is Lazarus behind Baccari, so that fight is not done and dusted. We go down to Robbie Teens, that's there in that 9th position, and he is 3 seconds behind Duggan. Is Robbie Teens in car 2-0, and he is the second last man out in the top 10. Peter Hubert rounds up the top 10 in the 777 car, and he is 27 seconds behind Robbie Teens.
A lot of drivers out of position from where they started this race because of incidents, and it's nice to see having some of these guys having to work to fight their way back to the front. But it's also nice to see the guys that don't put a foot wrong that gets rewarded, as we see Willem Botha making another move here, this time around the outside of Sandro Baccari as he works his way up into 4th.
Yeah, Baccari has to relinquish that position there to Willem Botha, dropping down there to P5. Herman Lazarus, on the other hand, in P7 is all over the back end of Leonardo Baccari. There's 0.3 of a second between the two of them, fighting it out there for that 6th position. And not far behind them, only 1.9, is Raymond Duggan.
Yes, this is the first of the pit stops. Ian Riddle dives into the pits in the Red Bull outfit as he starts dropping down the queue there, and that promotes Willem Botha up into 3rd. Sandro Baccari goes up into 4th as we see our first man dive into the pits, Ian Riddle.
Yeah, that's Ian making a pit stop. There's Sandro Baccari in that 72 car, busy making his way up the mountain. He's 0.8 of a second behind Willem Botha. That is there in that 3rd position as we ride aboard cockpit cam here of Baccari making his way through to the top of the mountain. You can have a look at the speed there, 189, 190 for 4th gear, 5th gear, bringing it down to 4th, bringing it back down to 3rd, to 2nd gear as he works his way around the top of the mountain, and not going slow around the top of Mount Panorama neither. Is Sandro Baccari.
Well, that is quite an initiation there for Sandro Baccari as we see Raymond Duggan battling it out there with the Leonardo Baccari. Is a Raymond Duggan also busy making his way back through the pack. Is Duggan there as he makes a pass there on Leonardo Baccari, and pretty soon you'll see him catch up to the guys ahead of him. Beautiful overtake, getting out of trouble there. High speed into that right-hander, almost lost the tail end but kept it out of trouble.
Right time, right place there for Duggan, and eventually getting his nose ahead of Leonardo Baccari. Well, the gaps are beginning to open up now as we ride there with the Baccari's now getting further behind, 1.2 seconds behind Raymond Duggan as they make their way towards the top part of the mountain. And he is having a good one out there. Baccari, it's the first time, I think, in a hell of a long time that I've seen Leonardo Baccari in that top 10.
Yeah, Leonardo Baccari has had a run of some bad races recently, but nice to see him out there within the top 10. Your top 2 not having dove into the pits just yet. Willem Botha in that 3rd position has been in the pits, but that was to repair damage. Now the question is, did he fill up during that pit stop to try and make it to the end? Can he still win this one? Or is he going to be caught out with running out of fuel and hand that one back to Graham Stephen or René Hubert?
Well, René Hubert is about to put a lap there on Johan Engelbrecht. We see that pink car of Engelbrecht ahead of him, and he's right there on the case there of Johan. He's going to put a lap there on Engelbrecht, but that fight is still raging on here. Raymond Duggan's coming right back at Herman Lazarus, so that one's not done in that fight there for that 6th and 7th position.
A replay here of Eugene Manuk. Let's have a look what happened here. That's also heading up in towards the mountain. And oh, just got it all right. He got collected by somebody there.
He did.
Was that? Oh yeah, that was the likes of Atinachel.
Well, Atinachel right on the case there of him. That's a replay. Yeah, Ati just hammering the back end there of Eugene Manouk.
Just caught out by cornering speed or a bit of frustration from being involved earlier on. But Rainier Hubert out in the Fruit Loops car, keeping out of trouble so far. He is out there in the second position as Graham Stephen dives into the pits. Your race leader, Graham Stephen, goes into pit lane.
Well, here you go. And I'm just hearing my headpiece flicker. Bruce is there. Bruce, yes. Yeah, Frank, you're right, man. I'm just watching the guys make their way into the pit area now. Two of the front runners have made their pit stops, and here comes your race leader to make his way down pit straight then into his pit box. He is a Graham Stephen, and I'll have a look and see exactly what he's going to do. He was only going to take some fresh boots. Where's he going to put in some fuel in that thing? Because they'll try and obviously have to fuel it fat until the checkered flag.
Well, Bruce, it wasn't a very long stop either, because Graham Stevens already back out towards pit lane exit as he comes out in that second position, just 7 seconds ahead there of Willem Botha. But we are riding aboard with Raymond Duggan, who's having a massive battle out there with Herman Lazarus.
Yeah, I see that Sandra Bakari has also made his way there into the pit lane. He's Sandra Bakari, but yeah, there he comes down into his box, and he's going to pull in there just behind Eugene Manouk. That's had all his fair share of troubles out there in this race today so far.
We'll keep an eye out on things here out in pit lane. You guys keep an eye out on the action out on circuit. Back to you, FC. Thank you very much, guys, down in the pit lane. Back onto the track action here. Luke Lucchesi in 11th position. He is busy catching up to the back end there of Andre Steenkamp. Just look at how quickly Lucchesi is catching the back end there. We're going to see a move here going into the chase here. Will we see him flick it to the inside? No, he does not, just not close enough there, but definitely applying the pressure there on Andre Steenkamp.
Look, there's a crowd in the back end there of the Andre Steenkamp DALLARA as he dives up on the inside into the final corner. He's up on the inside and through. Lucchesi goes on Steenkamp, and Lucchesi moves back there into the top 10.
Lucchesi back into the top 10 after starting this race on pole position, making his way into turn number 1 now, heading up the mountain straight towards Quarry Bend is Lucchesi. He made that pass on Andre Steenkamp, already starting to pull away there from Steenkamp as Ian Riddle is back in the pits again. Ooh, that's the initial crash coming through turn number 1. You can see the damage that he had there. Spent over 2 minutes in the pit lane to try and fix the damage there. Some horrible incidents there for Lucchesi at the start of this race.
Well, he's 4.4 seconds behind Leonardo Bakari at this point in time, which has now just become 4 seconds. So Lucchesi is closing up onto the back end of Leonardo Bakari. Hand over fist. Look how quick it's getting, less and less between Lucchesi and Bakari. 3.7, it'll be 3.6 shortly. He is really closing up onto the back of the man there in that 9th position.
Herman Lazarus is out there in that 5th position. He's having an extremely good race and staying out of trouble as he is just 1 second behind Raymond Duggan. We've seen them battle it out there throughout the course of this race. He's 5.6 seconds ahead there of Robbie Teings. But we see major stuff happening out here on circuit as we still need to see Rainier Hubert dive into the pits. He hasn't done a pit stop just yet, but a lot of the guys spreading out themselves over the course of the circuit. And just have a look at that. Lucchesi now starting to catch Leonardo Bakari.
We've got Bruce in my ear. Bruce, yes. Here, Frank, I'm seeing Luke Lucchesi is getting a lot closer there to Bakari. He's 2.2 seconds. Make that 2 seconds behind Leonardo Bakari. And I'll tell you what, your man from Cape Town, Luke Lucchesi, is closing up hand over fist there on the man there in that 9th position.
Brilliant stuff out there from our Aussie commentators down in pit lane as well. We did see when Graham Stephen was in the lead of this race, he was something like 35 seconds ahead of Willem Botha. Botha's done a stop to repair damage. He's only been in the pits for 6.9 seconds or something like that, and but he is now only 6 seconds behind Stephen as Rainier Hubert dives into the pits.
Yeah, Hubert, eventually the race leader makes his way into the pit lane. I tell you what, Rainier Hubert has not won a race yet in the iRacing Master Series. Could this be a maiden victory for him? But he will know that Graham Stephen is hunting him down, and Graham will take the lead away there from him as he works his way into the pit box. Graham Stephen will work his way back into P1, and Willem Botha will move up into that second position, nearly 6 seconds behind Graham Stevens.
Willem Botha is the man on the move after making contact with the wall earlier on, dropping down all the way past your top 10, and he's already back onto 2 seconds, or second position, just 6 seconds behind Graham Stevens. But let's have a look at this. Lucchesi has caught up to the back there of Leonardo Bakari, and we're going to see a tight battle here, Frankie.
Coming out of Forest Elbow. Now, this is where you're going to have to put your money on the Pantera Racing Man, racing down the Conrad Straight. Leonardo Bakari's got no answer. Bakari on the left-hand side. Lucchesi on the right-hand side. They're almost touch as they race down the Conrad Straight towards the chase. They are still side by side heading towards the chase. And from there down into Murray's Corner. And Luke Lucchesi has got his nose ahead there of Leonardo Bakari.
Brilliant overtake there by Lucchesi going into that 9th position. And now Lucchesi's going to work his tail end off to catch up to the back end there of Peter Hubert, who is about 16 seconds up the road in 8th position.
Well, that gap will close, that's for sure. 33 of the 45 minutes is done. Andre Steenkamp making his way into the pit lane, and Andre Steenkamp pitting out of that 12th position.
Steenkamp into that pit box area there, as we see Willem Botha has already taken the full second out of that gap between himself and Graham Stevens. I hope for Willem Botha's sake he doesn't have to pit again. He deserves a good result, bar that slight mistake that he made to put him in the wall. You can really see Botha loves driving this car. He loves the circuit. Johan Engelbrecht is parked in the pit area, and this is a replay to show us why.
Have a look-see as he makes his way around, rubbed it up against the wall, and he's hammered that wall there on more than one occasion. Has Johan Engelbrecht in that 24 DALLARA. And that's, if you look at the front of the nose cone, FC, did I see right? It looks like Homer Simpson on the front end of the nose cone of Johan Engelbrecht.
I'll have a better look just now. But I do have a noise going off here in my ear, and it is Nigel from down in pit lane. Yeah, FC, we just had a chat amongst the local boys down here, and we're going to call that corner from now on the Safa corner, seeing as how you boys can't make around that one. Yeah. Thank you very much, Nigel.
Gee, Nigel, thanks, bud. Bruce is still quiet in my ear, yeah? He'll obviously blip me if he has something to say. But Robbie Ting's in that 6th position. He's 3.3 seconds behind Hammer Lazarus. And I will say one thing, FC, there's a lot of names, as we were saying earlier on in that leaderboard, that's having a fantastic start to their season. Renier Hubert, Raymond Duggan, all these guys there in that top 5 at this point in time, including Herman Lazarus. So a good start for some of these guys for the new season, and not such a good start for some of the others that you would expect to be in the front half of the leaderboard.
Look, we've got some of our big hitters that are missing the opening race here for this season. But even with that said, it's not all of them. Some of our big hitters are way down from where we would normally see them. And this is really opening the door for some of your mid-pack to almost their drivers. You know, they're always nipping at the front end or the heels of your front runners. And they're just shining out here today, not putting a foot wrong and keeping those DALLARA Formula 3s out of the wall.
Well, as Engelbrecht comes out, now let's have a look and see if you can identify that character. To me, it looked like it was Homer Simpson on the front end of it. I could be wrong. I just picked it up very quickly. And it is Homer Simpson. It is Homer Simpson that's there on the front end of the 24 car of Johan Engelbrecht. So, well done there to Johan. Homer Simpson of the Simpsons is on the front end of that 24 DALLARA of his.
You know, we could have just actually looked at the WhatsApp group and it would have shown us what the color scheme was. So, yeah, but a brilliant thing there. Of course, those of you that don't know, the pink livery goes to the driver with the most X's or the most trackside errors from the last race. Now, is this from the last one from last season, or is this from the 6 hour?
No, that's from the 6 hour, because Willem Botha was supposed to be out there in a pink car as well. And Willem wasn't very chuffed about the fact that he had to start in a pink car, and he didn't want to do that. But Johan is saying, man, if not, why not? Let's have a bit of fun. And he's chosen a lovely color scheme on that pink outfit of his with Homer Simpson on that nose cone.
Well, I see a pink second time, pink lap time, 1:57.567. Luke Lucchese is the man on the move, but Willem Botha is another man who's showing exactly why he doesn't want to wear that pink, because he's doing a pretty good job up in that second position.
Replay of Bakari and that Formula 3 DALLARA just stepping out there on Leonardo Bakari as
He got collected there by somebody.
I was just going to say, he got hammered there by another car in trying to rectify the situation.
Came around the corner, the tail end stepped out, decided to put it into a donut to get it facing the right way, blocked the circuit there, as that looks like it might be Van der
Peter Van der
Spey.
Spey,
Yeah, Van der Spey, or yeah, there it is, Peter Van der Spey in the louder cars that clipped him there on that right wheel, and that has put major damage to both cars.
Yeah, Peter Van der Spey hasn't had it easy. He's done nothing wrong in this whole race, but just found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time with other drivers having problems out there as he leapfrogs back to the pit area to get that damage sorted out. This is a replay, and bang, he just takes off the whole left-hand side wishbones on that DALLARA of his.
Yeah, look, you can arguably argue the fact that there was enough time for him to see him, but looking at that shot, there wasn't a lot of time coming out the corner and all of a sudden seeing a car parked there right in the middle of the road and making contact with him as Peter Van der Spey makes his way back out onto the circuit.
Well, the gaps are pretty big between all of the drivers, so let's take a rundown from P1 all the way down. We've got Willem Botha sitting out there in P1. Yes, FC.
Yep. Because he put up a massive...
I was just going to say Willem Botha in P1, and I'd like to know how we got there, because the leader went off the circuit, Graham Stephen went off the circuit, and Willem Botha inherited the lead there, and Willem Botha up on the inside. That's a replay of Willem Botha having a fight out there, and that is Graham Stephen that lost it and then lost that lead to Willem Botha.
What a weird lockup or losing of the tail. He was way out of the corner, already on the power, then all of a sudden the tail end just started stepping out and going into a slide, heading towards the next corner. So Graham Stephen being the master of his own demise in that one, slipping down to second and handing, you can see the tail end just didn't want to step in line there, and that opened the door, as you see there, as Willem Botha makes his way past.
Yeah, that happened going through the chase, heading towards Murray's corner. But Willem Botha will say thank you very much. With 5 minutes to go, I have got this 23 Gazoo racing out the back there in P1, and he's now got a 3.6 second lead there on Graham Stephen. Now, let's see, Graham Stephen is going to put a lap there on McCarthy. McCarthy moves right out the way there for Graham Stephen. 3.7 seconds between the two of them. Now, let's see, with 4 minutes left on the clock, can Graham Stephen claw his way back there at the lead of Willem Botha?
Frankie, with the speed that Willem Botha has been putting out there, it's going to be a massive task for Graham Stephen to try and catch that back. As long as he stays out of trouble, he can stay ahead of Renier Hubert. Raymond Duggan is further down the line even, but look at this, Robbie Teams catching up to the back end there of Herman Lazarus. We got a fight on our hands.
You got a fight because Sander Bakari is only 1.8 seconds behind Lazarus and Teams as well. So it could be a three-way fight for that 5th position as we look from the gearbox of Lazarus's car towards Robbie Teams, and that's what 0.5 of a second looks like between Lazarus and Teams behind him. And Sander Bakari seen there in the background, only 1.7 seconds. Bakari is catching Lazarus and Teams.
Yeah, this is going to be a big fight here between these three for position number 5, 6, and 7 as Bakari catches up there. But Robbie Teams not letting Herman Lazarus go. We've seen an all race long battle between Duggan, Lazarus, Teams, and all those guys out there. Just look at how close it is. Robbie Teams can smell the gearbox oil of that number 7 car as they make their way down the side of the mountain. Now that's through a skyline into the Dipper and towards Forest Elbow. They're going to go pretty soon. There's nothing between them. There might have been contact there, but both staying out of trouble. But this is going to be a fight to the chase.
That's going to be a massive fight down to the chase. Down the Conrad Straight they go. And let's have a look, see that slight kink to the left. Here comes Robbie Teams on Hammer Lazarus. Under the Jim Bean Bridge they go. He's got the slip on him. Will he dive to the right-hand side? Yes, he does. Will he power past him before they get to the chase? Remember, the chase goes slightly to the right and then to the left. There to the right and then to the left, and he has got him. Robbie Teens has put the move there on Herman Lazarus, and right behind Lazarus now is Sandra Bakari.
Sandra Bakari bringing into play, or Lazarus bringing into play Sandra Bakari now as well. They're side by side heading into turn number the final corner as Bakari slides past Herman Lazarus and takes position number 6 away from Lazarus.
He's lost 2 positions there, has Herman Lazarus. He has lost out to Teens and to Sandra Bakari. Out of turn 1, the hell they go, working their way up the mountain straight as they head towards Quarry Bend.
Into Quarry Bend, they're going to go pretty soon as they go through underneath the Peters Bridge towards Quarry Bend. That is the right-hander you see in front of you. That is Teens, now Bakari, and then Lazarus that makes the way through that right-hander heading up towards the cutting is where we see most of those incidents happen. But everybody getting through it this time around is staying out of trouble.
Right, look at the man in 9th position. He just had the quickest lap there. He's at 12.4 seconds behind Peter Hubert. That is Luke Lucchesi. He's not going to get any higher than 12. He's 157.456. He'll close the gap slightly there on Peter Hubert, but I think 9th position is where he will find himself at the checkered flag.
Yeah, not a lot of seconds left in this one, about 40 seconds left in this race before we get to the white flag. There is the white flag already out for your race leader, Willem Botha, starting his final lap out there in car number 23. Graham Stephen in that 2nd position, followed by Rainier Hubert. He's 13 seconds down the line with another 15 seconds between Hubert and Raymond Duggan in 4th position.
Well, Botha must be careful now. This is his last lap, and he's got 2 back markers ahead of him. Ian Riddle, that he's made the move on now, and then he has got Johan Engelbrecht in front of him as well, and then they're heading towards the cutting, and that's where they're going through now, and that's where a lot of the guys made errors, and Botha is going to have to just find his way past Engelbrecht and not get it wrong. He has only got a 3.8 second lead there on Graham Stephen. Theoretically it's enough, but if he gets it wrong there, it could cost him dearly and big time at the end of the day.
Well, you can see that Willem Botha has already climbed off the power. I mean, he almost had a 5-second lead ahead of Stephen. He is holding back now to try and not get into any trouble as he's got less than half a lap to go towards the end of this race. But there's a battle that's not over just yet. Andre Steenkamp is smelling the car ahead of him. That is Ian Riddle, and he's just a 0.4 of a second behind him. He feels he can still make a move there as he catches up to the back of that Red Bull of DALLARA F3.
And Peter Hubert catching up onto the back end of Lazarus as well, so he could lose another position, could Lazarus. But it's checkered flag time for Willem Botha that sits out there in P1 racing towards the chase, and victory will go to Botha, but that fight for P7 is not done and dusted yet.
Yeah, but through the final corner comes your race leader, car number 23. He had it at the start when Lucchesi ran wide. Then he put himself in the wall, made a fight to come back there across the line. Your race winner, Willem Botha, for race number 1 in season 7. 8 seconds down the road. He must have made a big mistake now somewhere. Graham Stephen brings it home in second. 10 seconds ahead there of 3rd place, Rainier Hubert.
Rainier finishing there in that 3rd position. 15 seconds behind him will be Raymond Duggan, and while I watch Rainier Hubert cross the line, I'm keeping an eye on that fight for 7th position. Here comes Duggan across the line, and he will finish there in 4th. Robbie Teams will cross the line in that 5th position, and Peter Hubert has got him on the last part of the track. Peter Hubert moves ahead there of Herman Lazarus.
Yeah, but across the line will be Robbie Teams making his way towards the line now in the Renault car, the Toyota Gazoo car through the final corner. He crosses the line in 5th, just ahead there of Sandra Bakari in 6th. Peter Hubert will be the next man through in that 7th position, with Herman Lazarus will come through in car number 7 in that 8th position, 9 seconds ahead of Luke Lucchesi.
Lucchesi 9.3 seconds behind Lazarus, and he is 48 seconds ahead of JJ van der Merwe. That will round off the top 10. There's van der Merwe coming through. He's only going down the Conrad straight now. Is Johannes van der Merwe heading toward the chase and then to Murray's corner. And as he makes his way toward the checkered flag, he is the last man on the lead lap. Yes, he is. Van der Merwe is the last man on the lead lap in P10.
Yeah, Van der Merwe, the last man out there on the lead lap in P10. Andres Steenkamp brought it home in 11th position with Ian Riddle, Stephen McCarthy, Atti Nachel, Peter van der Spey, Leonardo Bakari, Mike Verrier, Willem Pinaar, and Colin Plitt and Johan Engelbrecht. That is your top 20. But through the final corner, car number 67, JJ van der Merwe.
Checkered flag is out, and Van der Merwe finishes his race on the lead lap and the final car in the top 10. First man out the top 10 in P11 is Andres Steenkamp. Well, our friends in Australia at the circuit, Nigel, how did you find this one?
Blimey, Frankie, all I can say is it was lovely having you South African blokes here. You Cephas really know how to put up a show for the locals. We really enjoyed it out here, and what an honour and a privilege it was to host your first race of your new season, and we look forward to having you guys back here for another round.
Yeah, this is Bruce here. I want to say big thanks to Gary Fleming from Second Gear Productions down there in the Cape Town studios in Welgelegen. I think that's the way you would pronounce it. I'm probably doing it wrong. But Gaza, from our side, you thanks a hell of a lot for bringing us on board for this one. And we look forward to joining you guys again when you do a race here in the land down under. Thanks a lot, Frankie and FC. Back over to you guys.
Oh, FC, Frankie, that was something, I'll say. Jeez, the local knowledge of what goes down at that circuit's actually pretty amazing. And wow. So, top 5, Willem Botha from Graham Stephen, Renier Bear, Raymond Duggan, and Robbie Tings. Once again, having a good race there by Robbie Tings. Raymond Duggan, frankly, one of the success stories of the last 6 to 7 months of iRacing South Africa.
Yeah, I must say, Duggan didn't do half bad at all, getting that 4th position. And Renier Hubert in P3 and podium. I think that is the best he's ever done. Sander Bakari in that 6th position. Even Peter Hubert coming through to finish in P7. But Lazarus in 8th position. Lost out to Teams, Bakari and Hubert in the closing stages. And poor Luke Lecquez just not getting it right there, just ahead of Van der Merwe.
Look, I'm going to have to say my driver of the day has to be Willem Botha. I mean, we've always known Willem's quick, but he's never had a race that came together for him. He's always had big problems, but he's always had quick lap times. This evening, he had a bit of bad luck after leading the race for a couple of laps, but he put together, after that, the drive of his life. He dominated them, and he just put in lap after lap after lap, kept his nose clean, and took control of this race, and came out on top. So in my eyes, driver of the day.
But my driver would be Renier Hubert. He's never finished in the top 3 ever. Yes, other guys had problems out there, but I think he'll be smiling from ear to ear. Look, Botha, we've always known as quick. He's always just had bad luck. But the Renier Hubert, wow. Podium for Renier Hubert. And I don't think he's ever got a top 5 before. Never mind a top 3. But you know what, FC? All of them. Great drivers, great sportsmen, and entertained us royally.
All in all, if you look where we started back in what was it, 2020 with the first season, or was it 2021? It was 2020.
Well, when we started,
no, it was towards the end of 2020, yeah, after TMSA.
If you look at how the quality of the drivers have improved, I mean, you can't even compare them. That's how much the improvement was. And yeah, hats off to all of the guys out there. And if this is how we start season number 7, it's going to be an all-season-long battle for supremacy.
Well, the hot news right now is that probably from next week on, remember season 7, 10 races, back-to-back every Wednesday, very good chance we'll be running as the next series from next week Wednesday onwards for the elites, the youngsters, and that will be running consecutively. We'll start half an hour earlier with this one, and we'll then run straight into the qualifying of the Mazda race, and then also very possibly a week or 2 from now we'll start with the touring car event leading to Swarte, and that will probably be the second Monday from there on out. Plans are being made for the recovery and return event against the international side. Remember that top 10 from MSA GTE and the top 10 from Master Series take on the rest of New Zealand.
I think when we have the return, SA versus New Zealand, whatever that may be, I think we must invite Nigel and Bruce to come and join us for that one. They lost out the first one,
Yeah.
but I think we must get them back for the second one.
Oh, look, that local knowledge is great. FC, closing word from your side. Round number 1, Season 7 Sports and GT Masters.
Yeah, look, basically I wrapped it up already and I said what I wanted to say. If this is how we're going to start season number 7, I really look forward to the rest of the season. Hats off to all the guys. I had an enjoyable time out here and I'm super excited for the season. Cheers, everyone.
Frankie Ernest.
From my side, yeah, I think FC put it basically the way it is. There's not really much to add to that. And just want to say thanks to our friends from Australia for joining us. And we'll see you guys again in the future. For the rest of you people, we'll see you back here again next week, Wednesday, with another round of the iRacing Sports and GT Master Series.
From the Production Studio, good night to you, one and all.